Bullshit.
It's the No BS Marketing Show. I'm Dave Mastovich, CEO of Massolutions, the world's only no bullshit marketing firm. In today's episode, I'm talking about outsourcing, which is the practice of delegating certain tasks and job functions outside of the company rather than having an in-house department or employee handle them. For one reason or another, outsourcing work has been deemed as a sign of weakness and inefficiency by some leaders, when in reality, it shows that you're dialed in to maximize your outcomes by leveraging outsourced partners who focus primarily on the task that you've delegated to them. I bring this up because time and time again, I'll be working with leaders and they will struggle with outsourcing. They'll struggle with getting something done because they have to outsource it rather than just try to do it themselves or do it with their internal team. Sometimes it's a skepticism of consulting because much of outsourcing is consultants or freelancers or people that are coming on a project basis. So many times there's a skepticism or a leeriness of working with outsourced partners. It's interesting to me, that was one of the strengths that helped make my career go so well on the corporate side and on the turnaround side, because I understood that it was a positive if it was managed correctly. In my opinion, outsourcing helps streamline processes and gets things done more efficiently, again, when there's leadership and management behind it. I believe there are two overarching reasons you should consider outsourced partners. The first is that you don't have the experience, or you don't realize that you don't have the experience. While most people are comfortable hiring an outsourced partner to bring in expertise that they can't provide on their own, there's a large portion of people who are overconfident or lack the self-awareness to realize that they can't take on the projects by themselves. The problem is they often don't have a good self-assessment in place that helps them realize their internal team or they don't have the experience to complete a task or a job function or something that's not on the vital, critical, immediate, essential, fire of the day, crisis of the day list. Their inability to see those holes in their department can and will lead to incomplete projects and an overall decline in productivity. And equally important, it prevents that person and his or her team from focusing on strategic initiatives, whether they outsource a portion of the strategy or whether they outsource other activities to give them more time to work on the strategy. That's the problem. That's what leads to an overall decline in productivity and the strategic perspective. The second and perhaps the most important reason to outsource is that you don't have the internal capacity. This one is harder for people to admit, and instead of admitting that outsourcing work can actually help their company and make them look good in the process, many people view it as a sign of weakness for them or their team if they admit they don't have the internal capacity. I actually credit my successes early on in my career to outsourcing work. I was confident enough to use outside vendors. I called them strategic partners, and I didn't have any problem giving them credit. There was a lot of work that I did early in my career for a couple of turnarounds where if I didn't have that kind of resource, that person that could come in and make sure that they could cover things beyond the crisis of the day, beyond the craziness at the company whenever priorities shift quickly, or beyond the fact that you're trying to build and coach and mentor a team and they're just not there yet. I believed and still believe to this day that hiring outsourced partners helps maximize efficiencies. Let's face it, we all have the tendency to pretend that we can get to things when we know full well that we can't. We go into protection mode because we feel that the more work that's on our plate, the more valuable we are to the company. But in reality, holding on to work that you know you can't do or that you can't get around to in a timely fashion is more of a hindrance than a help. I believe you should double down on your strengths and outsource your weaknesses. When you focus too much on your weaknesses, you lose sight of what you're actually good at and begin to struggle across the board. Outsourcing, if presented in the right way, can be seen as a positive because you're humble enough to admit that you and your team lack the experience or bandwidth to do it, but that you're taking a proactive approach to keep the ball rolling in the right direction. The main takeaway when it comes to outsourcing is to not let your pride or lack of self-awareness bottleneck your process and your progress. This marks the end of another episode of the OBS Marketing Show, recorded from our studios in bold, beautiful downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions, no BS.